Okay, a little bit of a different angle on the spalling. This is heat treated Edwards Plateau chert. I can use a lot of these spools that came off, although I'm getting quite a collection of these chunks. I'm not going to be able to use all of them in my lifetime, probably just maybe a fourth of what I've got. And my flakes like this are probably in the hundreds, if not in the thousands. So I get questions on what I do with these. I just save them up and I separate them. I start to chip on them, and if they're not any good for delicate work, I just toss them. Some of them have inclusions and I toss those. So a lot of this heat treated stuff is not that great for flint and steel work. I have tried a few times with the flint and steel and the raw stuff, especially the translucent raw agates seem to work really, really well. Okay, so let me know what you think about this angle on the spalling. I'm going to do a few more and see how it works. It's a little bit easier for me. I have more clearance instead of having the camera in front of my face. Let's try one more. I got a few more chunks in here. I'm going to make some arrowheads in the next videos with these, or probably this one here. Okay, let's see. I'm not sure what these other ones, these other nodules are going to look like. I'm just going to grab them at random. This is a quartzite hammerstone. All of these ones that I rough out my preforms with are all quartzite. Different size, different weights. This one has the most use, as you can see, but they're the same material. Let's try the big one. Natural platform here. Lots of inclusions in this one. It's not going to be all that great, so I'll put it aside. It's raw. All this stuff is raw here that I'll be doing in this video. And I break these up so I can heat treat them. I mean, they're not all raw. That first piece was heat treated. This is raw. This is raw. This will heat up okay. It's very grainy, but it heats up pretty good. But I'll put that aside and heat treat that if I need it later. I've got a pile of not so great raw stuff for later heat treatment. Okay. And I collected this myself from an area called the Callahan Divide here in Texas. Lots of varieties in that area. And I just collected on the side of the road. You know, it takes a while to drive around and find them, but you can find nodules on dirt roads. Okay. That actually looks pretty good. You can see the difference. I found those in the same area, these nodules, and you can see the difference. This one has some inclusions, but they're not quartzite. Not like this one here. This one will give you trouble with knapping. These inclusions hardly affect you at all. Very nice. Semi-translucent. Well, maybe all the way translucent. Yeah. And I'll heat them up. I'll heat them up at this size here. As long as they're not too thick, as long as they're not more than, I don't know, 3/4 inches, should be fine. Sometimes they'll get cracked if it's too thick, and you put them in the roaster oven and it's in a spot where the heat is concentrated, like in a corner of a turkey roaster. Sometimes the thicker spots will develop crazing or cracking on the inside. But sometimes even thin flakes will do the same thing, even small ones like that sometimes. So it's a kind of an experimental thing. It's not always reliable. You may cook up a batch of stone and have it come out all right, and the next batch looks similar, but it cracks. Not sure why that happens. Various factors. I'm sure the geologists know a lot more about that than I do. Okay. So you can see the translucency here. I've got a lot of this odd size nodules to break up for the turkey roaster for heat treating. Thought that would go further, but oh well. Let's try. Sometimes the flakes will go further with a smaller stone. I was going to hit it right here, but it's kind of risky. I'm going to take off that cortex there. That's not too bad. I could hit that. But there's a concave area here, which is not good for striking because it'll just crush that or just make a short flake. It's important to have some convexity, or at least flat, right beyond the platform. You know what I mean? See, I want to follow this ridge here. I got to make sure that's it, flat or convex. If I hit, let's see if I can see through the finder and then point to it. I'm going to hit this area right here. Try to follow this ridge down through this mass. See what happens. And I just, take off any weak areas. Okay. That's what I'm doing here, just brushing off the weak little edges. Let's see. So that wasn't too bad. I was hoping a little bit further that way, but I went this way. Still a very flat flake, nice for a hunting point or a bird point. Heats up very nicely. Don't have to worry too much about that cracking. But now, let's see. I could move over and hit there. But see, I've got this little cortex ridge. Yeah, and this is limestone, so that makes this chert. A flint would have chalk on the outside. All of this is chert. This has got limestone. Chalk would rub off quite easily. It does rub off, but it's a little bit stiffer. Limestone is chalk basically, but the limestone is harder. The chalk is more powdery, obviously. Powdery when you do this. You get some powder off of this, but not much. It's mostly like little chunks. I could hit that. It's a nice platform. I could hit that with a antler billet, but it's really smooth, so it'll probably have better results with a stone, because the stone will grab into it better. An antler might just bounce off, just because it's very slick. Now I could rub it with maybe braid it, and then hit it with an antler. That way I can get a nice long flake from this mass. But I'm just going to try this. All right, I missed it. A little bit too far over, but I can still try to hit it in the middle. Hit it in the middle, but I crushed it. Move over one more time. This time I'm hitting up here, not on purpose, but because it's in the way. I'm trying to get higher up on the platform, and the top of this rock is hitting that cortex. Try a couple more times. If I can't hit that, I'll just come over here and hit this one into this way. Well, I hit it, but not much happened. So I'll come over here and do this one. Again, I got to check for convexity. This is concave right now, so I got to flatten it out by taking some flakes off, brushing it, taking off that concavity. See how it's more flattened, and convex would be the ideal ridge to follow. So it's slightly convex now. Now I am going to be striking on the cortex, but it's not too bad because it's very thin. The thin cortex is okay to strike on usually. It won't take too much energy off of your strike. Again, I missed it. I'm thinking about it too much. I missed it. It went over to the side, but I can still move over and hit it. Try to hit it again. I hit it perfectly, but not hard enough. Not doing this on purpose, although I could say I am. All right, let me just get into the zone here. All right, I'm hitting a little too high, so that's why I got this one coming off the top. And I just completely blew away that platform, so let's come over to a different area. I just came over here and quickly took something off there. I'm just opportunistically taking flakes. I still want to get this flake off of this mass here. So I'm trying different areas. There, I can get a better platform off of this, although again I need to create a convexity instead of a concavity. So now it's safe to hit. See how it's convex? And I can hit anywhere along here. So my first strike, I'm going to try to get the easiest spot, because right here it goes upward. See that it's higher here. If you hit that, it's easier to make contact with the hammerstone. So I'll try that first. Again, I got to check for a convexity. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's okay. There's a little bit of a dip in here, but I think if I hit high enough, it'll be strong enough to send a flake in. We'll see. I'm using kind of like a protruding part of the stone. I hit the cortex. I'm hitting too high, so I hit the cortex. Let's try this again. That was a good hit right in the middle. Nice flat flake. The bulb is a little bit big, scooped out quite a bit, but I wanted to make sure I was high enough to get a good, thick flake. It's hard to actually knap these very, very thin flakes. You want to have a little bit of meat in them. Okay. Let me just finish preforming this before time runs out. Strange stuff going on, probably some strange cracking in the cortex. Now, some people might be wondering if this actually stresses the stone when I'm using a hammer stone on something this relatively thin. Yeah, it does stress it. It does send in some incipient cracks. But I'm going to be making probably a Clovis type or a paleo point type in the near future out of this. So I'm going to be losing a lot of width. So I'm not too worried about incipient cracks. But yeah, using a hammer stone on something thin, it really reduces your width because of the shock and the incipient cracks and the radial cracks that'll go in. So antler is better for finishing, but this is very quick, so I usually do it with a hammer stone. Because with the antler, you've got to prepare the edges a little bit better. And I'm not saying grinding, I'm saying just prepare them. With a hammer stone, you don't need so much preparation because you can just hammer right through or smash right through most of the problem areas. But with antler, if you don't want to wear out your antler too fast, you need to strike carefully. I got to be careful. If I'm too thin in the middle, it breaks in the middle, so I got to thin out the ends. So I was about to hit here, but it'd be too thin in the middle, so let me work on the ends a little bit more. One of the questions I get asked is how far in advance do I think about this? It all depends on what I'm planning to make. If the thickness is important for the point I'm trying to make, that's the hardest to plan for. If I don't have to worry about the thickness, I can just create a preform with any amount of thickness. But if I know I'm going to need a lot of thickness in the finish point, which is the case with many points, I need to be very careful not to take off too much at this stage, which is actually very difficult. A lot of beginners think that thinning and getting it very thin is the most difficult. Well, after you've been knapping a while, keeping it thick becomes a challenge because you're so tuned into thinness, if that makes sense. Okay. Now I'm fortunate with this cortex because there isn't very many defects. It's just nice and solid. So I'm just skimming barely any off, which is possible with this type of cortex because there isn't many defects, although I did see some weird cracking on this side. It doesn't look like it goes all the way through the whole thing. You see some right there. But that's still pretty thick. I don't think I'll have problems with it. But who knows? There's some weird stuff going on there, so I may lose a good portion of this bottom part. We'll see. I could try that now and see what's going on. Since the tip it looks okay, it's not too thick. Let me work on this part, see what's going on. Yeah, striking on the cortex takes away some energy. Yeah, there's some weird stuff going on there. So let's see. Create a good striking area so I can go in this way. Some pretty big cracks. Yeah. But I still get a substantial, spall here. Still make something out of it. Again, I gotta check for convexity before I strike here. And if it's not convex, I need to make it convex, or at least straight. See that there? Now I can strike. So I crushed it, but you get the idea. If I think about it too much, I tend to either hit too hard or too soft. Hitting too hard will crush it. Too soft won't do much. You got to be in the zone to do it just right. And I'm kind of hitting above center line too, so let me reduce that a little bit. Okay. All right. Well, we'll stop there since I'm out of time. And I'll upload this and see what you guys think about this view. Okay.